Hey, what's up everyone? It's Josh with the Envision Vlog, and I am back after a hot minute. Yeah, I know I haven't been really uploading videos for a while, but I'm back and there's just been a lot of crazy stuff happening and I just haven't had the opportunity to really film and upload videos and things like that. So I'm hoping to go back and start doing it a little more frequently, so hopefully y'all will keep seeing more content from me. But regardless, let's get into today's topic, which by the title you could tell, why I gave up driving but not my car. For those of you who are new to this channel, maybe you're seeing here for the first time, maybe haven't seen it in my previous videos, I am actually legally blind, and yes, I do not drive. My vision is, however, degenerative, so at one point I actually could drive, and eventually the vision has deteriorated to the point where, you know, it is unsafe for me to operate a motor vehicle. I just wanted to talk a little bit about that experience and what it was like for me, and hopefully offer some points of inspiration for anyone who may be going through something like that. To me, when I was 16, 17 years old, I could drive. I had my license, I went through driving school, had my own car, and to me, having that car, having that license truly was one of the major milestones of freedom for me. I no longer had to worry about my parents taking me places. I could go and do things as I needed to do, and also it allowed me to help my friend. I used to take my friends to and from school from time to time, and help their parents out if their parents worked late. I even had one friend who unfortunately took on more in selling candy bars for the school fundraiser, and literally, like, I told him, hang on, I'm coming to your house, and we literally spent a whole evening just driving around and delivering candy bars to people. And literally I went there and tried to help him out and everything. So having the ability to drive allowed me to help people and allowed me to help myself and be independent. When I first started driving, I did understand a lot about my vision, and I did understand that my night vision wasn't the best in the world. Keep in mind, we didn't know I had a visual condition at the time, and I simply just drove during the day and literally drove at night on roads I was familiar with, and only drove at night when I needed to. So all in all, very responsible driver in my opinion. I don't know about other people, but yeah. So when I was first diagnosed, one of the first things that the doctor actually told me was that I should give up driving. I was 19 at the time. It was literally a shot to the heart for me, because at the time, 16, 17 years old, being told at 19 that I should give up driving, I'd only been driving for 3 years. I only had that sense of freedom for 3 years. When my doctor suggested that, I was really, really devastated. Really, really devastated, actually. And it was tough, because that was one of the first instances of denial where my vision actually kept me from possibly doing something I wanted to do. It was one of my first instances where, my vision could hinder my independence. And me being the young, stubborn teenager I was like, this doctor doesn't know what he's talking about. I can still drive. I can still do all this. Who cares what he thinks? So against my doctor's wishes, I continued to drive. And, I realized I kind of had a balance of it. I was very selfish about the whole thing, but at the same time, I was very smart. I say selfish because, my doctor is basically stating that at this point, I am not safe on the roads for myself or for other people. And because I wanted the independence and the ability to continue what I wanted to do so badly, I was going to put my own safety in jeopardy, as well as possibly put someone else's safety in jeopardy. But I will say I was very smart about it. I did understand at this point, I had an answer. When I would get in car wrecks in those years between 16 and 19 and told my dad, hey, I didn't see that car, it came out of nowhere, and then it would turn around and it was like, well, you were probably on a cell phone, or you were probably changing a song with an MP3 player. No. I really didn't see that car come out of nowhere. And the doctor just confirmed that, so hallelujah, I guess. I don't know. So I understood that yes, I do have a visual issue and it will hinder my driving in some sort, but at the same time, I had proof that my acuity was still in the legal limit of driving. I had just made some smart decisions about how I was going to drive. 2 days I went to a friend's house, and on my way driving home at night, I was the most paranoid about driving as I had ever been. What would have taken a simple 20-minute drive probably took about 40 minutes because I was driving so slow and I was so nervous about running off the road or hitting somebody or something like that, that at that point the peace of mind was worth it to just stop driving at night. So at the age of 19, I decided to stop driving at night, and as I got older, I started limiting how I drove during the daytime. I would only drive wearing special sunglasses that were made for people with low vision, and then on top of that, I never drove anywhere I was unfamiliar with. So if my friends from Winthrop were like, oh, let's go hang out in Charlotte, someone else was driving, not me. I wasn't very familiar with Charlotte, but if it was just a simple drive down the road from Winthrop to, pick up something from Walmart during the daytime, I was game. Fast forward to about the time 21, 22 years old. At this point, I'd had too many close calls. It wasn't so much about seeing what was in front of me, but seeing what was coming from side to side. When I say people were literally in my blind spots, they were literally in my blind spots. When I would be driving down the road and I would see someone walking on the sidewalk and think, oh my Lord, what if they stepped out in front of me? Would I even be able to see it with my peripheral vision being the way it is? And at that point, I made the decision that I was going to stop driving. I never turned over my license. It's just a decision I made that, I had reached that point where it had been 2 or 3 years since my diagnosis. I'd been more accepting of it. I understood, what the effects of my vision loss would mean, and that was just, for me, a very mature moment in my life. My vision at this time also deteriorated to the point where before I was right at the legal limit to drive, to where now, vision-wise, I was past it. Some days I would take a vision test and it would look like I was good to drive, and then other days I would take it and it wasn't. So at that point, there was no debating it in my mind. When I decided and made this decision, a lot of people asked me about it, and they're like, oh, well, why do you want to do this? At what point, you still seem like you can drive just fine. And while that may be true, I always felt that being visually impaired, low vision at the time, was bad enough. And I didn't want to be low vision and then also be in jail for any sort of manslaughter charge. That honestly is something that I could not allow myself to live with. And that's just kind of also how I viewed it as one of the big deciding factors. That leads to the next part of this story. As you guys noticed from the title, it's about why I gave up driving but did not give up my car. A lot of people reached out to me, and some people were like, oh, well, are you going to sell your car? I mean, it's still in pretty decent condition. It's still really nice. You can get a lot of money for it. Why don't you sell your car since you're not going to use it? And I decided to hold on to it, and I think I made the right decision. I decided to give up driving. One of the reasons I held on to my car was because of just the sheer feeling of sentimentality, I guess. Yeah, we'll go with that. It was my first car. It was my baby. I just, I wanted to hold on to my car. Another reason I held on to the car was because gas was expensive, and a lot of times I used my car to basically help out my friends. If you ever needed to go somewhere or something, I'd be like, well, you're gonna have to come pick me up, so you swing by my place and you can just drive my car, so that way you don't have to waste your gas getting anywhere, and then obviously, my car will still get some use out of it. Another thing is if they crash my car, they crash my car. The insurance is still there, they'll still be covered, I'll still be covered, the car will still be covered, but it's not gonna be something where they're gonna have to drive it every day. That car doesn't get driven every day. But, if they crash their car, that might be a car that they need to drive every day. And, at that point, you know, I want to kind of take that, I guess that liability off of my friends as well. I only put gas in my car like once a month, and my car didn't have a lot of miles on it, and you know, I didn't want my friends putting miles on their car, so you know, there's another way it works. Another reason I held on to my car was for emergencies. As I mentioned earlier, my vision was kind of teetering between the legal limits, so to speak. So some days I felt like I could drive well, other days not so much. Everything was really subjective, but you know, I literally felt that I felt better having my car if, you know, one of my friends or someone that I lived with was about to die or got injured and I needed to drive them to the hospital. It was a life or death situation. You know, I could hop in my car and, you know, take that risk to get them to the hospital rather than waiting for an ambulance. But, you know, if I didn't have my car, I couldn't do that. And one of the final reasons I hung on to my car, and I was playing the long game with this one, was, you know, I really viewed my car as an asset. I know cars, once you drive off the lot, they start losing their value and can become more of a liability financially the older they get. You know, you got to pour money into them and you think, you know, oh, you're just paying money for something that slowly depreciates. But for me, I always felt that if I get into a relationship with someone and it begins to get really serious, having that car will be an asset, because I'm also one of those people who thrives on the idea of having a 2-car household. That's assuming that they would have a car too, which, you know, they did. Also, if they didn't have a car and we were in a serious relationship, you know, there would be a method that I could provide that would help us get to work, to home, to things like that. So to me, it's something that, you know, I could possibly contribute to a relationship. These were the things that were seriously going through my mind when I decided to quit driving, and whether or not I should sell my car. And these are the main reasons as to why I made the decisions I did. So at this point in my life, I still have my car. It still runs. My girlfriend is the one who drives it. All the calculated measures I made in holding on to it have paid off. Me, thinking ahead, playing the long game. Like, I haven't driven that car in 7 years. 7 years. I've literally been a passenger in my own car. And, you know, through 7 years, you know, I've learned to accept the hand I've been dealt, and, you know, I've made the best of the situation that was there. But I will say this. Even after I gave up driving, I held on to my license literally until it expired. And you will have to tune in for part 2 of this whole giving up my car license series in order to hear that story. This is Josh from the Envision Vlog, signing out.